Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 42nd episode of By the Drip, where we deep dive into coffee, entrepreneurship, and the incredible people shaping our industry. And today, we got a big announcement from our very own Cole Torode. He's officially relaunching Forward as 2.0. So in this episode, we explore why Cole moved to Panama, what sparked the relaunch of Forward, and how he's reshaping his approach to sourcing, selling, and distributing coffee. As we chat with Cole, he shares how baristas, roasters, and coffee producers can benefit from his direct sourcing style and creating more value for everyone in the supply chain. And we wrap it up with Cole giving us a firsthand look at the future of specialty coffee in Panama and what it means for the industry. Okay, let's get into it. All right, friends, we're back. And we got a special guest with us today. First time caller, long time listener. Our friend Cole Torode has got an announcement, a big announcement for us all. What's going on, Cole?
Dave, I'm happy to report this weekend I fought in the heavyweight title match, and I am the reigning, defending heavyweight champion of the world.
As what? In boxing or
Was that,
is this MMA?
Yeah, whatever, man. Just heavyweight. I'm a heavyweight.
Oh, just heavyweight.
I'm just celebrating that I'm a heavyweight. Yeah, that's right.
Put on a couple of
That's
LBs or KGs.
Yeah,
KGs.
exactly. Exactly. Too many chicharrones here. No, I have a big announcement. I am calling from Panama at the moment. I am calling from a rental place that is my home for the next, I guess, 3.5 months. Looking at the date here, 3.5 months. And I am reestablishing, rebuilding from the ground up Forward Coffee in a whole new model, in a whole new
Nice,
way. And yeah, I'm super excited to have been doing that for the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks, but also excited to kind of chat about it now that a lot of it's come into light and share it with you in more clarity, but also share it with the world in more clarity.
I'm gonna list,
And that's our time.
just like
That's the full episode.
Please download, subscribe, and like. So why relaunch? Why go to Panama? Why not somewhere else? And then talk about I'll talk about that first because you're going to talk for a while.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot. So we did an episode in maybe October talking about why we put Forward on pause. And I think maybe before we go too far, let's just kind of recap the decisions that we made in doing that. So Forward was trading coffee from kind of 12 or 13 different countries around the world, was trying to have them on the menu all the time, was trying to be sort of a one-stop shop for top quality coffees of many different origins. And what ended up being the challenge is just navigating supply chain logistics and procurement on all of those different coffees and keeping up with them on an annual basis. Bringing them in, no problem. Finding the cash and cash flow to bring them in consistently, that's a problem. That's a challenge. And if you fall slightly behind with that many different origins, it becomes hard to keep up. And so I think the best times of my career have been during the years of building Forward. I think I've found the most personal enjoyment. I've found the most sort of opportunities in both personal growth and headwinds, challenges, overcoming different global phenomena that are occurring and trying to keep up with it. And then it's also just been, I think, where I have the most passion as a professional. And I've gotten to work in a lot of different areas of coffee as of now. And I really loved my time with Forward and getting to work with roasters in different geographic areas around the world and producers in different geographic areas around the world too, and kind of connecting the dots between them and adding value in that sense. It just became really challenging to do from Canada. And so we, put it on a bit of a pause or hiatus. Today, now Forward is operating 100% in Panama, only Panamanian coffee. And the idea is a very different model. I'm cupping coffees. I'm cupping as many coffees as I possibly can. And at the moment, I think I have 600, just shy of 600 coffees on my spreadsheet that I've fully evaluated. And I'm trying to select sort of an array of my favorites, an array of good volume and value offerings, and an array to build sort of a portfolio that goes on the website and then they're made available for sale. One of the unique parts of Forward's business model now is I'm bringing access to coffees and visibility to coffees in Panama that are currently in parchment, they're in cherry, they're in what producers here call the reposado, which is like the resting state. And the interesting thing about that is once you put in an order through the Forward website, that coffee will get milled on demand for you. And rather than in the previous model with Forward, when you put in an order through the Forward website, that coffee has been milled 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, depending on when it would have shipped for us, which means that it's no longer in like the ideal state for stabilization. It's been shipped, it's landed in a warehouse in Calgary, and then we have to ship it onward from there. There's opportunity for quality depreciation in that window. Here, you now have the opportunity as a client of Forward to one, front run a lot of buyers. You're getting access to coffees before a lot of buyers are showing up here. Two, get access to coffee faster than other buyers or others around the world, because this is going to be a relatively quick turnaround between buy and ship. And then three, you're going to get access to top quality coffees that are super fresh, which I think we haven't really seen a true model of that exist in the world in a marketplace type of sense like this. So for me, I think there's a lot of stuff we can unpack and sort of dive into and talk about. There's a lot of exciting stuff that I've come to learn while I'm here in Panama. And frankly, I feel really good, man. I'm happy. I feel I'm in a pretty good routine. I have this as mi casa. And I feel a sense of home in the way that I walk in the door and there's comfort and all that sort of stuff. So beyond business, feeling pretty good. But let's chat about it. What do you got, Dave?
Nice.
Did I put you to sleep a second time?
I'm waking up here because I got to say something. No, I think it's interesting that you're shifted the model so much. I think we should go into different parts on why. First, the big one I got is why were you drawn to Panama? I think you kind of answered it, but then you went really macro. So why move to Panama? Why not move to Mexico or Indonesia or somewhere else?
Yeah. It's a great question. Panama.
Man, of course, that's a great question.
Every question you ask, Dave, is a great question. Top
Thanks.
quality, man.
Top quality, just like Panama coffee.
Just like Panama coffee. So that's one reason is top quality coffee. Another reason is geographic location. In terms of size, Panama is very small. It's all of the coffee production is centralized to one region that's all the way west in the country in a province called Chiriquí, and it's even centralized within the province of Chiriquí surrounding the Baru volcano. So if you were to go on Google Maps, type Baru volcano, you'll see the regions of Boquete, Volcan, Cordillera, and then you'll kind of see some other sort of shifting areas that go above and beyond that. What that means is that any day, if I need to hit the road and go cup with somebody on the other side of the mountain or on, way over there. Way over there is really 2.5 hours at the most in terms of driving. And that in a way just makes it so much easier to do business here, because I don't need to pick and choose regions in, you said Mexico. I've sourced coffee from Mexico before, and there was one time where I drove from one farm to another, one farm in Veracruz in the east on the Gulf of Mexico to another farm in Chiapas in the south. And it took us 17 hours door to door. We left at 5 a.m. We arrived at midnight or 1 a.m. or something. And it's like, we did that to cup 20 coffees, right? And yesterday I was at 2 different producers. I visited, I cupped, I got exposure to 40 different coffees, and I was home in time to watch the sunset. And you look at the efficiency of that, and it's pretty ideal. So that's a big part as to why Panama is small geographic location. Another is top quality coffee. We kind of giggled at that a little bit as you said the question, but truly Panama is producing some of the best coffee in the world. There's no doubt. There's no argument to it. There are other countries that are producing amazing coffees as well that would rival Panama for sure. But I think the consistency and the average here amongst most or all farms is at a higher level. And I think that draws more intrigue from a global audience. There is also a lot of volume and value coffees here that I've come to discover. Like I was cupping earlier in the week or late last week, I don't recall, and coffee that I thought was a pretty sweet, clean, balanced, a little bit of fruits and chocolates, overall rounded cup profile. Was a $5 a pound Ketuai. And there's a couple of containers worth of that coffee kicking around in this one producer's scope, and it's like, okay, this is interesting. There's volume value stuff here too that I didn't really consider as a buyer that's been coming here for many years, and a buyer that's generally speaking only looking for the best coffee out of Panama. There is a lot of other stuff that we can uncover.
So your portfolio now only goes to Panama, so that's the only coffee you'll be selling, but the depth within Panama will be much wider versus Ford 1.0. You were selling only the very highest end. Now, if I'm looking for a value play coffee, I could pick up a container of that coffee, plus I could stack in some super high end, outrageously expensive stuff.
Yeah, if you want to, I'm an advocate for the outrageously expensive stuff. I'm an advocate for the volume value stuff, the cheap and cheerful. And I think that's the interest for me, is I can still speak to a global audience of different perspectives of roasters around the world. And I can still honor all of them with some offering in the portfolio. And I think the longer I'm here, the better I'll understand what is truly available, and the better I'll be able to meet the needs of all clients. Right now, going on the portfolio, if you were to log into the website, I think there's 65 different coffees currently available on the website. They range in quantities from the smallest lot that I've had online is 600 grams. That was the full production of one of the coffees I tasted, and I thought it was exceptional. And so I booked it and put it online. That lot has sold. There is 3 kilo, 5, 7, 10, 15, 20, 23, I think is the largest increment. And what you're seeing on there is currently the minimum order quantity from each individual producer that I'm working with. Without the full systems in play, I can't really do repacking right now. It doesn't quite make sense for me in terms of the value proposition. As I get more established and more set up, I will be able to bring back the 1 kilo program that so many people loved before. Lots of people have asked me for that in response to the communication that Forward's coming back online. Lots of people have asked me for the 1 kilo program again, and that will come back to life. But will take a little bit of time to establish the systems and the scheduling to do that, and how exactly it will work, but it will be there.
What's the most interesting thing you've seen or learned since you've been in Panama full time?
Uh, Man, that's a good one. I think I've got two. One hasn't happened yet, but it will tomorrow. And the other was the realization of the, we've already talked about this, but the realization of the quality potential that I can deliver because coffees are sitting in reposado, where they're in parchment or cherry, and orders will be milled on demand. I think that
So let's go
realization.
into that. Let's go into that more in depth. Why is that a value add versus, I'm in Canada, I go to the local importer and I
Mhm.
just buy green off the shelf or, from Annex or somewhere in the States that's shipping it to me.
Yeah,
What's the difference?
yeah. So the difference, the big difference would be, there's a couple of things here. One, when a coffee's finished drying, so it's finished its full life in the processing, wet processing, dry processing, and before it's complete and packed into boxes or bags, it'll sit in a bodega, in a warehouse. It'll sit, and you'll see the photos of warehouses with bags stacked all the way to the roof, and just a ton of inventory sitting there. Each of those bags at a quality place will have lot identifiers, numbers, whatever tags that are on them. And generally speaking, they won't mill those coffees until either the season is done and they'll start to just go through them and mill them, or they will mill them uh, usually before somebody has placed an order. So let's say they get an order for 10 boxes, they'll mill that coffee down to put into the box. When you mill the coffee, it's a very violent process. What's happening is you're using friction, or like a small, uh, mostly friction, but like a small little blade, not blade, like a burr type of idea, and you're trying to
Is it
break
58
either the,
or 84?
yeah, 58 millimeter, much bigger. You're trying to break the cherry so you can remove the cherry and expose the seeds, or you're trying to use friction to remove the parchment and expose the seeds. And if you think about it in the context of food stuff, the longer we can keep the seed from being exposed to air and oxygen and the rest of life, in theory, the longer the shelf life of the coffee. But then there's another thought to it where, as a coffee finishes drying and gets put in the bodega, it's just gone through another very, in theory, quite violent process where it's going through fermentation, it's getting cleaned, it's getting sorted, it's getting raked, it's getting moved, it's getting, all this different process to end up in the bag in the bodega. And the coffee needs to stabilize. So we can't, like, coffee's a fresh product. We can't just take it off the tree, run it through drying, mill it, roast it, and expect it's going to be perfect. All of these things need a window of time. And the longer the window of time that we actually get to sit in reposado, in theory, the better the coffee will be for the end consumer. So a lot of producers here, they don't really want to mill coffees right now because they think it will be better if they do it in a month, or they
And
do it in
why
two
is it
months.
better? Like what is happening in the cell structure that's making it better?
It's stabilizing. There's uniformity that's going to occur throughout the bag, so different seeds will kind of stabilize, and the moisture will balance between all of them. Uh, there's a similar recommendation if you're a wine drinker and you travel from Italy and you bring a case of wine back with you. The wine has, there's non-dissolved solids in the wine, right? And then there's dissolved solids in the wine, and as you travel, they move with violence or frequency. as you put them on the shelf in the wine rack, a lot of wine racks are slightly angled and you're supposed to put the wine backward. They settle into the base of the bottle of the wine. And it's ideal that you let your wine rest for whatever, a week or 2 weeks before drinking if you've just been traveling, because it will be a more true expression or whatever. So it's similar idea, different industry. In coffee, it's like the longer we can leave it in parchment or in cherry or in reposado, the more stable it will be. Which leads me to my second interesting
Wait, I
thing
got one
you
more
asked
question. I
Okay.
got one more question. How long?
Yeah.
What's the ideal state? Because then I'm thinking, well, why don't we keep it there until next year?
Right. So next year is not ideal. Maybe 2 to 3 months, depending on who you're asking in terms of producers. They've all got different ideas. It's one of those things, it's like, it's not quite written in a textbook. It's slightly written by history. Not enough study is going into it, but should be fascinating to know more. And if you really understand the reposado side of things, everybody who's here as a buyer right now in March is here way too early, which
What
is
I was just
everybody
saying.
that's coming. You were just
What do you
there.
mean?
You're here way too early. It's like people are
You set
buying
up
and
the trip,
selecting
man.
coffees. People are buying and selecting
You're trying to
coffees
throw me
based
under the
on
bus.
super fresh coffees that are either coming just off the drying bed. So won't be totally true to what they will become. And you need to learn to see past that. And then you're also, a lot of people are rushing producers to ship coffees right now because of when World of Coffee Indonesia and World of Coffee Geneva are happening. They want coffees to arrive, next month or the month after. And maybe it's not the best, maybe it is the best, depending on what you're looking to do. But definitely something I'm going to look more into while I'm here is better understanding the stabilization of coffee and the way that it rests and the way that it then performs in the cup.
Okay. That all kind of makes sense. It sounds interesting that there's more to kind of discover there. I think one of the issues we have is like when we're buying coffee, when is the right time to ship it or air freight it? And
Right. Right.
there's everyone's got a different theory, which can be good and bad for the industry. And anyways, as you're learning, you're on the ground, you'll see different results and talking with roasters as they receive product. Hopefully this style will be, you're going to see hopefully like higher quality, longer shelf life.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. We'll see how it all plays out. A big value, I'm going to get to my second point, but a big value in me being here and working in the way that I am is I can also shorten the cash flow cycle for producers, which for them, they love. As orders go through on the website, that money is going directly to producers to get the coffee ready, to get it prepped, to ship. And that means they're getting paid now in the middle of their harvest. Most people are just finishing or are in the middle, little after the middle of their harvest. So if they can get cash in now, that's a huge win for them. It's obviously a win for me, but it changes the narrative and it changes the current structure of the way that we buy coffees. Because again, everybody that's here right now that is buying coffees and cupping coffees, most of them are reserving coffees. And then they're going to pay in May or in June or in July or maybe in September or maybe in some cases in December, or maybe in some cases they decide they're just not going to pay at all and they're going to forget that they reserved that particular coffee, and a producer will get stuck on it at the end of the year. Last week I cupped 1,800 kilos worth of inventory that a producer just had the buyer not show up for.
Oh,
Followed
wow.
up numerous times, didn't show up, mostly geisha. And now, they're stuck. They hosted this person last year, cupped the coffees together. Now they're stuck with all this inventory that a lot of it is baggy, a lot of it is flat, a lot of it is,
Oh, no.
and the value therefore has gone down astronomically, and they don't know where to sell it. Do you just sell it into the local market? So I think in the model that I'm setting up here, we can shrink the risk for everybody involved, get payments into the hands of the producers in order to make the orders happen, and shorten the cash flow cycle dramatically to really help them, grow through the season. 'Cause it's the middle of the harvest. We shouldn't be here distracting them with a bunch of people buying. We should be letting them go through the harvest,
So let's
right?
talk. Yeah, let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah.
You threw me under the bus. I came too early. You booked the trip for me, but I'm too early. So no, I was in Panama. I got to go with obviously met up with Cole and then two team members. So Dan and Dom from Rosso were down there, and we got to pick some coffees out. And you could see, in all seriousness, you could see that there wasn't a lot of coffee to choose from. It was early March. There's been rain, right? That's delayed everything.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot of rains in October, which is
pushed everything back.
destroyed some crop and then pushed some other stuff further back.
And so I think one of the advantages of you being on the ground now, and an advantage for a buyer like, I guess, myself,
Yeah,
is, you can talk a bit more about it, but it's like, I don't need to come visit, or maybe we can set up a more strategic visit for when I should go and talk about your like sourcing practices. Like if I'm looking for a certain type of coffee, I can now just say, "Hey, Cole, I need these kind of flavor notes, or this, I need a natural process, or a price
yeah,
fighter or something for competition."
yeah, absolutely. I think part of the business I'm setting up is just a static portfolio that's going to live on the website. Static's not the right word. A dynamic portfolio that's going to live on the website, and the plan is weekly or bi-weekly. I will update it weekly. I will send an email saying, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what's coming onto the website. This is what I'm excited about." And then as stuff sells, it sells. I'll replenish it with other lots. Everything being limited in the sense that that is a nano lot, micro lot, whatever language you want to put there. The other services I'm going to offer, there's two other ways to work with or interact with Forward. So one will be sourcing as a service, which I think is what you just kind of leaned into there, Dave. And the idea is Dave reaches out to me. He needs 100 kilos of coffee from Panama. He's looking for ideally 50 kilos of geisha and ideally 50 kilos of mixed varietals. And of those, he wants at least 4 lots, up to 6 lots, 10 to 20 kilos, 10 to 25 kilos each, whatever it might be. And then price ranges from X to Y. Here's the overall budget. And then these type of flavor profiles. One is very orange, very citrus, very sweet, honey-like. One is very strawberry, cherry, red. One's very classic, floral, like that type of thing. I can take a request from a great roaster like Dave, and then I can turn that request around into immediate action with either one, I go through my spreadsheet and I see what aligns with the descriptions that I've just received. And then if nothing, or if a few things and we need more, then two, I start to reach out to different people. And the value of having me do the reaching out is I've got a really good relationship with everybody that I'm working with here. I've been in most cupping labs that you see coffees on the menu right now. I've been in most cupping labs 3, 4, 5, in some cases 8 times already this season. I'm having home cooked meals with most of the producers. We're having we're buddies, we're friends, we're in close relation, and I think I can get the answers for you faster than most, and I can find certain items and opportunities and what you're looking for, should it exist. I can find it, I think, faster than most, and can provide options, very quickly. So that's one of the value add propositions that I can do through Forward. So you don't have to come here as a buyer. Coming here as a buyer can be the greatest or the worst thing. I know many buyers who are like, oh man, Panama is like my number one every year. I gotta go. It's just so incredible. And I know other buyers who have been, and they dread coming back. They don't want to come back because it can be, how do I say this politely?
It can be
Uh,
difficult.
it can it can be difficult. It can be a very, very almost toxic experience in the sense that the way that coffee is currently traded here and offered for sale is just very challenging. You go into cupping labs and some people have price sheets, others don't. Some people have quantities or inventory ready, others don't. Some people are ready to do business right away. Others, like I'm chasing certain people down for a week or 2 weeks trying to find quantities of coffees that they showed me. And it's like, if I was a regular buyer and I was here for a week, there's no way I'm getting that coffee, right? And if it's been 2 weeks since I tasted those coffees, there's been 6, 8 other buyers that have gone through there that I've seen on social media, which means they're probably tasting the same coffees, and either none of us are getting them or somebody else has bought them. And for me, that's a terrible experience because I just gave my time, and my time is the most valuable thing. I just gave 3-4 hours of my time thinking I could go in here and buy your coffee, and you give me the lip service that I can, but then your actions tell me otherwise. And that can be a really terrible experience. And when you're coming for a week or you're coming for 5 days, 10 days, whatever, you catch a couple of those days, and all of a sudden it becomes very hard to justify the expenses of flying to Panama to do the sourcing here.
Or you haven't bought anything. You're
Or
kind of leaving
you
empty.
leave and you're like, what have I done? What have I bought? Where am I?
Yeah.
And so the service I want to offer is more of a no fuss. No fuss. You don't need to dedicate the time, the expenses, whatever, to come here. You can if you want to. Of course, that's always going to be open. I'm not the gatekeeper of Panama. But the idea is I can bring visibility to coffees that are available throughout the country that I've tasted, I've enjoyed, I think have value and purpose in the market. I can find coffees for you specifically. Like I can do all the dirty work. I can take the photos for you that you need for social media or marketing. I can do all of that stuff and save you the time, and you can invest your time in other capacities that, if you don't come to Panama, your Panamanian coffees will be less expensive to serve to your clients because you don't need to put the ticket price onto the budget of your purchases. Like I can save you money, get you better quality, get you more exposure, save you a lot of time. I think there's a lot of really exciting things that I can do with Forward. And I've hardly even scratched the surface of the potential.
Yeah, I think it's a nice way to kind of frame things because so many buyers while we were there, March is like a very busy time. Everyone comes at once. And then you see all of a sudden you're cupping, you're in a big group and there's 10 of you or 20 of you cupping, 30 coffees, and you're not quite sure who wants to buy and what the story is versus the website. And if you're there every day and you're cupping at different labs every day, you're going to get more snapshots of different coffees versus I'm there for 4 days. Whatever hits the table is all I got to select from.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big thing. It's like the perspective. If you want the best coffee from Panama, you need to taste a lot of coffees. And I have 5 different groups currently that I've tasted more than 50 coffees. And I've got one that I've done more than 100. And, that's just, to me, that's still small numbers. A lot of these groups are producing 500 lots, 600 lots. And I don't believe I'll get to taste all of them for sure. But to get the full exposure and understand where the best value is, where the best coffee is, where not even the best, but where the opportunities are has been really fascinating. I had another thought that has slipped my mind. Oh, the other point, the other value that I can add. So let's say you're a buyer of Panama already. You don't see the value in working with me or working with Forward. You want to buy all your own coffees. That's totally cool. You want to come here and spend the time, visit everybody, taste 10 to 20 coffees, book as many appointments as possible, run around and do your max. Cool. The biggest expense as a buyer of Panama is not understanding the logistics component of Panama. And we've gone through this where we're buying from 10 to 15 different groups in a year, and we're shipping them all individually. And what ends up happening is, depending on the quantity that we're shipping, obviously we're going to get different prices. And a big factor on that price is shipping documents. There's a governing body here that you need to go see in order to get the proper documents and stamps to ship coffee. And those documents cost money. My understanding is $180 to $220. And so let's say you're shipping 100 kilos of coffee. You've just added $2 per kilo. You're shipping 10 kilos of coffee. You've just added $20 per kilo before you're paying for shipping.
Wow.
Right? And there is no service right now that exists in Panama. There is very little. There are people that do this. There's nobody that I'm aware of that is offering this as a true service. And please, if you know of businesses, comment below. Tell me in the comments so I can chat with them. Consolidation services. Being on the ground, I can go, like where I'm based right now, in 1 hour, I could visit and pick up your coffees in Boquete. I could go to every single different spot and I could pick up all your coffees. They could get delivered to my little bodega here, which is it's my living room over here that has air conditioning in it. And I can do all of the documents and paperwork to ship your coffee on one bill of lading, which means you have one set of documents,
not 6
which means
or 10.
You pay one time for the $200 fee. And coffee producers don't want to necessarily tell you that costs money. They just bake it into the price of shipping. They don't tell you they will consolidate other farms together because one of the two farms or numerous farms has to do the work. They don't want to. It's not value add for them. If anything, asking them if they can consolidate with a different group is like kind of rude or offensive in a sense that, they want that quantity that you're buying from them. They would like that volume. They don't want to do the work for somebody else. And so I can offer that service. And I think in doing so, for people that buy from different groups, I can save them hundreds or possibly thousands of dollars by offering that. And that's another of maybe 3 big value adds that I think I can put into the world of Panamanian coffee.
Yeah, I think that's if there's like hidden costs that I think a lot of buyers don't truly calculate. You got time, you got the energy, all the travel that goes on. And then it also, on the flip side, it's like we can go to these places as buyers and see a producer not buy anything. We don't like the coffee that day. We don't buy anything, but we just sucked up a whole day of time and energy from them. And that's a cost and a burden we place on them. So there's a funny dynamic that goes on in all coffee buying, but especially in Panama because everything is so close, and you can hit in 4 days. You can hit 10 different groups, taste coffee, and only buy from 2.
Only buy from 2, but extract the energy from all of them.
Yeah.
Right. And there's buyers that come here who They buy from 15, 20 people and they're here for a week and they try to jam all of them into 1 week. And, frankly, part of me thinks that's very admirable. It's very impressive that you're doing that. That takes like unbelievable, impeccable scheduling and timing and all that sort of stuff. There's no room for error. But on the flip side, the second there is error, somebody's feelings get hurt, somebody's time gets wasted, somebody's opportunity gets taken away. You're not getting closer with people. You're not doing justice to the quote unquote direct model. You're not getting closer in terms of relationship. If you're doing 1 or 2 hours, let's go. Next table, let's go. You're not benefiting the overall ecosystem other than bringing capital in and buying the coffee. But let's be honest with ourselves. If you take your ego out of the equation, you don't need to come to buy those coffees. You could just write these people that write the different producers and say, hey, last year I really liked this coffee. Do you have something similar this year? Yeah, I don't need a sample. I know a sample costs you money and time, and then you can't offer that to other people in the time that you're waiting for me to send back my cupping notes. Please don't send me a sample. I trust you. Ship the coffee. Here's the payment. Thank you so much. That's the model we should be operating on here. And that's the model that most buyers should be buying through. You don't need to come. If they have true relationships, lean into the relationship, and that will pay dividends in the savings of time, the saving of capital, the savings of respect, of humanity, all that sort of stuff. Because a lot of producers get dragged through the mud waiting on buyers to show up.
I would agree with most. I got to push back.
Which part?
Everything you've just said. No. I'd agree with most of what you're saying, but there is something to be said as like, I'm making a decision, it might be thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, and not feeling in control of that decision by just saying, hey, send me your best stuff, you or producer A, B, or C. Seems like a shot in the dark because what I like might not be what the producer likes or what you like. And I have my own tasting model or, sequence or whatever, and I think a lot of coffee buyers, they want that control. And I understand everything you said makes sense to me, but I think there's a bit of a disconnect.
I mean it more in the light of you've been here many times.
Okay.
You're not a brand new buyer. I mean it more in the sense that you've been here many times. You have historical references for what you like or don't like. The producer has, in
An
theory,
idea of what you've been buying.
references of what you like or don't like. And it's more of a, can you match this thing from last year?
Because
less
I think
of I'm a brand new buyer, send me your top stuff in your portfolio. I think that's stupid. I mean it more in a direct, quote unquote, direct model, relationship coffee. If you have a true relationship, lean into it. You shouldn't need samples. You shouldn't need any of that stuff. It's if you have a true relationship, lean into it. Trust the person on the other side.
Yeah, I agree. I still believe. Yeah, we can disagree. It's all right. You sent me at the wrong time of year, but no problem. That's okay. We can disagree.
So part of me also saying that is I don't plan to do samples in the business of Forward. I think if you really consider how samples work, they're taxing, they're labor intensive, they're expensive. They're usually disrespected in terms of time, and people aren't courteous of getting to them as fast as possible and going as fast as possible with them. And what they don't realize, so as an example, I was in a cupping lab last week and I've been there 6 or 7 times, maybe more, and they're saying to me, anything from today that you're interested in, we need to know right now. And I'm usually pretty adamant about doing it right after the cupping and securing my stuff right after the cupping so it doesn't go to tomorrow's cupping or tomorrow's buyers or whatever. But in this specific instance, the group that I was with was putting together their samples to ship out to buyers. And they have 50 buyers on the list, let's say. I don't know how big the list is, just for the conversation, 50 buyers on the list. They're sending them each 10 samples. They each get 100 grams per sample. They're getting a kilo of coffee each. There goes 50 kilos of coffee, which you're not certain you're going to get a purchase of from sending the samples. It might require a second pack of samples. So you have no guarantee that you're going to convert a sale, but you're also not charging for the samples. So therefore, that's really it looks like an opportunity, but it becomes in a way an opportunity loss if it doesn't convert. Not to mention the samples you're sending these buyers need to be strategically mapped in a way that they all get different samples.
So we both don't buy the same coffee or whatever.
To the best of the ability. You can't send all 50 buyers the same coffee, right? You can't do the same sample pack. But then on top of that, you're hosting clients on a day-to-day basis right now because people are here right now. And therefore you have one of two choices. One is you don't show any of the coffees that you sent on sample on the cupping tables. Or two, you do show it on the cupping tables, but then you potentially offend somebody you sent the samples to or somebody that you have in your lab at the moment wanting to buy that coffee. So you're doing this dance where you're trying to prioritize people that aren't here right now, but you're trying to still capture that sale. And in doing so, you're potentially offending somebody else while allocating a substantial amount of time and energy and coffee. In this particular case, that 50 kilos of coffee, that's, we're in Panama geisha land. Like we're talking 50 kilos of a quality geisha is probably $100, $200, like 50 kilos, we're talking $5,000 to $10,000 of money on a small assumption that you're sending out there that you don't know is truly going to yield.
Yeah, it's a weird cycle. I don't know how we solve it other than everyone trusts everyone, which let's get real.
It is never going to happen.
It's never going to happen because one time you send me something that's not so good, in my belief, that kind of like ends that relationship or whatever. So
my thought on the trust basis and forward can be a little bit of this, but I think too, producers can take on this model. I don't think anybody's brazen enough to do so. Stop hosting buyers. So there's two parts here. One, I think buyers visiting a lab should pay money to visit different labs, and then there will be less toxicity and less hard feelings and less of all that. It should be booked. It should be paid for. If you buy coffee, you get your money back. So now we weed out the tourists versus the buyers. I think that's a model that Panama should look to enforce across the board. That's how we do it in most other industries in the world. And if you go to visit tequila, if you go to visit Burgundy, if you go to visit a wine region, you pay for the experience, you get your money back upon purchase of X dollars. I think that makes sense. I think on top of that, that's step one. I think step two is you cut out buyers visiting and you just invest in your quality control team and your quality assurance team. You hire 3 to 5 professionals per cupping lab if you can budget and allocate for it. And then you have these professionals taste all of the coffees that you have, and you continue to consolidate their notes together and together and together. And you can then have, coffee, whatever, this washed geisha lot 232, we have cupped 8 times. These are the people that have cupped them. Dave's cupped them twice. Cole's cupped it 3 times. And then, Susie, Sally, and Joe. And of the 8 times it was cupped, we got jasmine written 7 times. We got mandarin written 7 times. We got, and you build a database of cupping notes, and you control what I think this would achieve. As a producer, you begin to control your own narrative rather than you let me into your lab and I cup everything and I go, the roasts are bad, therefore Dave's coffee is bad. And that's what people do. And it just
Or
sucks.
everything's 86 or nothing's great or
everything's
the coffee's bad.
86. Yeah, they didn't put enough coffees on the table, so I'm annoyed with them. I was cupping a shared table the other day, and the guy next to me turns and whispers to me, "I've never had so many 86s in Panama." And I'm thinking, man, these are all really good. Am I off? Am I misaligned, miscalibrated? Like where am I right now? And
You're in
own your
Panama.
narrative. I am in Panama. Own your narrative as a coffee producer by investing in your quality control team and use their notes as a database to sell your product rather than relying so much on the palate of the people you sell to and investing in like their ability to probably not provide you feedback. Most people don't share their feedback, right? But just switch it. I think would save a ton of time, a ton of energy, higher quality control, higher quality product. Like it would do so many things that are positive, I think, for the production of coffee here. However, I don't believe there is a producer that is brazen enough to do that and shut down
It's a
their
hard,
lab
yeah.
to
I think
public.
it's a hard shift for them because you're taking risk. And then anytime we change the model, the good thing about coffee is like there's so many different models and people are kind of
Mm-hmm.
flexible across the board and we kind of reinvent things or change things every whatever half decade, which is exciting. Instead of wine, it's the same way for the last 50 years and it's hard to break in and you don't have that much innovation. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know where we
but
land. I think everything you're saying makes sense, but it's a tough shift because you need two parties to kind of agree instead of or the producer obviously could say, hey, no more visiting or visiting only after production's done. But that most producers they need to sell that coffee now. You need
yeah,
cash in the door and
where
it's
the difference in wine, using that as the reference, it's like wine is sold usually most frequently by a critic, right? It's a professional that gives the notes. It's not. It's like restaurants aren't going to wine region and they're like,
yeah.
"Ooh, this white wine would go great with our tuna appetizer. Like, we'll buy 3 cases of this." That doesn't happen. It's like they're buying it on somebody's notes, right? And that's what I'm saying we should be doing here is more professionals that come here and they are willing to do quality notes and do quality evaluation and write descriptors that have depth and meaning and do the work in selling the product. Because I don't know, I think that could just be such a change in the way coffee is traded. And then there's businesses like Forward. In a way, Forward could be a business that is just providing that as a service. If I hire 2 to 4 more quality control professionals and we have a standardized approach to evaluating coffee, I could just set up a kick-ass lab here and just receive samples from whoever, small, medium, large scale producers, and give unbiased opinions, unbiased evaluation of different coffee products that they can then use to turn around and sell the coffee. We make it so much harder than it needs to be. Hit me.
I was going to say, now that we've solved
No,
everything in Panama,
hit me. Hit
I'm going to
me.
hit you,
I'm the
man.
heavyweight champion of the world.
And all your checks are super heavyweight.
That's right.
Okay, I think you've solved everything in Panama, so we can move on now.
Not even in the slightest.
Um, what else do people need to know? We're touching an hour here. We kind of
Okay.
went down a bit of a rabbit hole. What else about Forward 2.0, as you've been calling it?
Yeah.
Uh, I heard you were saying earlier that people have been really excited. You had, hundreds of people logging into the website, lots of people reaching out. Is there like, I don't know, a moment of someone saying like, thank goodness you're back or good luck or
Yeah. 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 So I've kept the password. I've kept the website password protected, and
okay. So if you
that's
subscribe uh, to our podcast or YouTube channel, do we get the
yeah, yeah. You have to subscribe to the podcast. No, I kept it password protected at least for the time being to not to hide anything. It's not to hide anything. It's more that I want to know who's on the website. I want to know who's showing up and using it. I want to feel connected to those people. I want to offer my support in being there. I want to control my narrative the same way that I'm saying others should too. So I'm asking anybody like that DMs me on Instagram, I'm asking them to send me an email so I can also send in that email, this is what's going on. Like, here's a couple of paragraphs. It's a copy paste thing, but here's a couple of paragraphs as to what I'm doing, why I'm doing it this way, and why that should matter to you or to the quality of coffee or to whatever. I think probably I'll link this conversation when we release this conversation into that email. And I'll send anybody the password. It doesn't matter who. I just want to be connected with the people that are interacting with the website, and I would like to nurture relationships that are there and see how I can support people in their coffee journey and how maybe they can support me in mine. So that's one thing. The password will change every now and then. I will change it. I will edit it every now and then just to keep that fresh. I also think that Panama as a country is not quite ready to have fully transparent prices across the board. Like different producers don't know what other producers are charging, is what I mean by that. And it's more of like a funny political thing that they don't ask, or they're close in the way that they operate, but they're like not so close in the conversations that they have. And there's a lot of benefit I think that could come from just more constructive dialogues here in Panama, and people being more open to how they're struggling or successful in their businesses. I think a lot more of that could come. But I think at the moment, Password is trying to be respectful of that.
yeah, yeah.
What else? New coffees will launch all the time. They are all limited. They are all, once they sell, they have sold. Uh, so you will see a new listing come on. You will not, there's a very rare chance, it's usually I've done the inventory wrong, that you will see inventory added to a product. It will be mostly just disappearing. So if you see something online that you're very interested in, I highly recommend you buy it. And the reason is you don't have to ship it right away. And this might get very chaotic for me if people are stringing together numerous orders. But what I want to offer is somebody to piece together their order. So ideally, coffees should ship over 100 kilos. That's going to be a break point for logistics, for the documents, but also for the price per kilo of global shipping. 100 kilos will be the break point, and that's where we'll start to see some savings. So
So I
if you
need to
want to
get
buy
to
it,
100 kilos.
you don't need to.
Sorry, but for best shipping price, I'm
Correct.
120 kilos again. And I could have
Yeah.
5 farms making up that 120 kilos, and I could
Yeah.
pay and it could ship in June or August or
You can ship whenever you want to ship. You can buy whenever you want to buy, and then I will hold it here for you until you say, "Hey, Cole, I'm ready. I'm ready to ship. Please put together, invoice number 123 345 and 567. I want all those coffees to ship. Here's the shipping address. Boom. I'll quote the shipping. We'll get the coffee milled, packed, blah blah blah, and off it goes." So I'm telling people that if there's anything on the website they're interested in, I would heavily suggest buy it now. If it sells out, I can try to find similar. Coffee is one of those things, though, that just no two are ever quite the same. They're going to be slightly different.
okay, exciting. I'm excited.
I'm excited, man.
I finally
I'm
got the
excited.
password.
All you had to do was send that email, like, and
I
subscribe.
subscribed all my burner emails too, so
Oh, perfect. Perfect. I need more people on the list that don't open. That's good for my,
the open rate's tough.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, overall, I think there's on the website maybe 12 to 15 different brands. So a brand being Hacienda La Esmeralda as an example, like 12 to 15 different individual producing parties. And then I think there's 65 coffees currently on the website. I think I've booked 80 coffees so far. There's some that won't go on the website. They're sourcing as a service offerings that I've booked for people, and then some I just haven't quite had the time to upload on the website. I've got a cupping today that I'm hoping to add another maybe 5 to 8 coffees. These will be varietals mostly onto the website. I'm trying to build a portfolio that has not just geisha. Panama is obviously famous for geisha, but I'm trying to find a lot of high quality varietals that can, bring not a new name, but a new image of what exists in Panama. Dave, that might be all I got, man.
No, it's great to. I haven't seen you in a little bit, so it's great to reconnect. It's great to hear you're settling in your new lifestyle, and yeah, Ford 2.0 sounds like it's off to a really good start, and excited to see. We'll be we'll be in Shanghai when this podcast comes out, so
Yeah, Dave and I are going to be at Hotel X. If you're going to be at Hotel X in Shanghai, we will be there, and we'd love to see you. We'll be representing Rosso, our roasting brand, and we will have, funny enough, a lot of beautiful Panama coffees available for sale at Hotel X. And then, funny enough, Rosso will have to re up on some inventory and might be a key client for Forward.
I'm coming back.
Ah,
No, I have my trip booked. I'm coming back.
I got a room for you anytime, Dave. For the rest of you listening, my room's booked. I'm so sorry.
No, man, it's great to see you back up and running. Good to see you in high spirits. Lots of people have been mentioning it to me that they're excited of 2.0, and
Sweet.
that's it, man.
Sweet.
Appreciate
Rocking
it.
and rolling. I launched 7 days ago, I think, the website. And it's been like an overwhelming amount of support so far, both in orders coming through on the website and people just messaging me, emailing me, lots of excitement, lots of gratitude, lots of eagerness to get coffees. I had a competitor email me and say, "Hey, can you ship tomorrow if I buy today?" And I was kind of like,
Wow.
no. Um, yeah, and just lots of people are super super keen and supportive of what I'm doing. So that makes me obviously feel great, and then feeling kind of grounded and home for the first time in quite a long time of conquesting the global market with you. So exciting times ahead, man. Looking
All right.
forward.
Well, let's sign off. We gotta get to work.
Yeah, I got a cupping in 15 minutes here in my home coffee lab.
Oh
How
well,
cool is that?
it's pretty cool.
It's pretty
Okay,
cool.
big guy. We'll see you next week. Ciao.
Ciao. Thanks, everybody.